Hello, MCU fans. Today is going to be the final video in my series on closing out the MCU in 2023, and of course, looking forward to all the great things to come in 2024 and beyond. Now, this series so far has been 6 videos long and a runtime of over 4 hours combined. That's craziness. But we looked at all the open issues, the state of heroism and the state of villainy, the loved ones and family members lost, ranking all 47 MCU entries, and looking at the potential Phase 5 and Phase 6 slates. So this video is going to take a step back, make a more high-level bird's-eye view of the entire state of the MCU. Just like we get a State of the Union, this will be the state of the MCU as we close out 2023. Should be a lot of fun. In fact, speaking of the state of things, YouTube every year sends creators the state of their channel. So I just thought I'd share this to thank all of you for your support, because these numbers wouldn't happen without you. So in 2023, there were 7,300 new subscribers. I uploaded 111 videos. There were 50,000 likes, 1.2 million views. That's craziness. 13,000 comments and 2,800 shares. Now, I don't really track the shares. I'm not even sure how. Maybe somebody that knows how to use YouTube Studio can tell me. I didn't even know there was a way to know that number. But thank you for everybody that shares the videos. That actually helps a lot when you share them with your friends, family, coworkers, etc. Then on the far right is the total stats for the channel. Total of 13,000 subscribers, 269 videos, and almost 2 million views. We're so close. Hopefully this video will put us over the top. So again, thank you all. This channel wouldn't even exist without you, and these numbers wouldn't exist. So really, really appreciate it. All right, don't forget, all December long, we do have a contest running. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment. One random winner will be announced in early January and can choose from one of the books or steel books above. And as I always like to mention, we do have the new membership option. But as I showed with those stats earlier, any way that you support the channel, liking videos, subscribing, sharing, etc., is greatly appreciated. Thank you again. Okay, we're going to start with a perspective check. And I know right off the bat, I'm going to get some comments that say, dude, Rotten Tomatoes is a terrible way to look at scoring movies. And you're right. You're absolutely right. It is a totally flawed system. I 100% agree. However, it also can make or break a movie upon release, right? I mean, people may just not even go see a movie based on the RT score, or may go see it. Likewise, it's just a good way to compare across time how audience and critic perception have changed. So I'm establishing up front, it is a terrible measurement. Yet, it is still interesting to look at this. So, notice Phase 1, as if you average the critic and audience scores across every movie, 80% for critics, 79% for fans. So, basically, pretty much the same, right? The audience score and the critic score, very close, with Incredible Hulk being the lowest ranked by both the critics and the audience. Then we have Phase 2, 81%, 84%. So, critics and audience are pretty much still on the same page. And once again, we have some of the lower ranked films like, Thor: The Dark World. Still a good film. I still enjoy it, but, just falls near the bottom for the phase. All right, then we get to Phase 3. Now, this is interesting. The audience score actually went down to 83 from 84. A small drop, but still went down. Critic score, though, went way up, 89%. That's awesome. So what's going on here? How could fans possibly think that Phase 3 is slightly, granted, but not as good as Phase 2? Well, it's for, rankings like these. And I'm not going to go into great detail on why I think both of these are so low compared to critics. I think you can probably guess why they might be. But I want to stress, if somebody doesn't like a movie, that is okay. Mark it down. There's nothing wrong with that. I think 45% for Captain Marvel is extremely low, but nonetheless. And then Black Panther is interesting. 96% by the critics. You could argue that's kind of high, but then again, it was nominated for Best Picture, first superhero movie ever. And versus fans at 79%, that might be a little low, but regardless, again, people just vote your conscience if you're somebody that goes into Rotten Tomatoes. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so let's look at Phase 4. Now, the critics were not happy with the movies. 76%. Ouch. And fans, if you just look at the movies, fans liked it better than Phase 3 and Phase 2. It's their favorite phase so far if you just look at the movies. That is wild. So what's going on here? Well, first of all, you got Eternals. I don't know why the critics did not like this film. I mean, to that level. It was not rotten. Is it the best Marvel film? No, it's not at the top of my list, but it's in the middle somewhere, maybe lower middle, but I liked it. I don't get it. I do not get, I will never understand. And I refreshed all these with the latest scores. So even over time, it has not gotten any better. Interesting. On the flip side, critics seem to like Love and Thunder better, but still, so getting closer to the general audience score, but still a bit of discrepancy there. And then I think this is interesting. Now the critics, didn't like Black Panther, the follow-up, Wakanda Forever, and the fans did. How do the fans go from a 79% for the first one to a 94% for this one? Fascinating. It would be interesting to go in and really try to dive into why does this happen. But I'm just kind of pointing it out because this stuff is fascinating to me. Black Widow, that's another one where critics were a little harsher than the fans were. So very interesting. All right, now we move to TV. Okay, here we go. So the TV, now critics love it, 90%, and the fans are less happy at 81%. So what's going on here? Well, I love Miss Marvel. It is a great series. I don't think it's worth 98%. I think the critics were overly favorable of that. It is not the best series on Disney Plus TV. I mean, it's above Loki. It's above the Guardians Holiday Special. I don't think I can do that. Even What If. I liked What If a lot, and I'm real excited for the second season. It is not a 94%, I don't think. So critics seem to really, really like Disney Plus TV. And then you got fans. Again, if you don't like She-Hulk, and believe me, I know a lot of you don't, because it was the lowest ranked on several of the lists when people shared their rankings of the MCU. But 32%, I mean, when you look at other shows that would get a RT score that low from the audience, I don't think it's that bad. But anyway, if you do, that's okay. Not trying to convince anybody to change their mind, just more looking at how interesting all this stuff is when you see how the fans and the audience reacted. The critics and the audience reacted. Now to Phase 5. Okay, critics, not happy with Phase 5. Absolutely not happy. Just low scores on the Marvels and really low on Quantumania. On the other hand, though, look at that. The fans, 86%. Sorry, I keep saying fans. Technically, it's audience. The audience, 86%. That is fascinating. That means the audience liked this phase better than Phase 3. That's so fascinating to me. So fascinating. But then we throw in the TV shows. Whoops. Now we go down. I mean, Loki, obviously, that was good. I Am Groot, from a critic standpoint, there's just not enough voting to get a critic score. Audience score 81%, but man, Secret Invasion, that really hurts. Now, I think the more that comes out in Phase 5, these percentages will go up because I'm hoping that like Deadpool 3 and Agatha's series, etc., will get everybody engaged again. But right now, that's not good. Okay, so let's look at across all the phases, what we ended up with. So these are the critic and the audience scores across the phases added together and averaged. Critics said they ranked in order: Phase 3, then 4, then 2, then 1, and then 5. Way down for 5. When I did my own ranking of 47 entries and then averaged across, this is where I came up with as well. I ended up being 3, 4, 2, 1, 5. On the other hand, the audience score pretty much is a wash between 2, 3, and 4. I mean, we're within a percentage. So that is really close. And then they also put 1 and 5 pretty close. So on one hand, you could say, well, that's not too bad, right? I mean, 5 is around the level of 1. But yeah, that really is kind of bad because that means that people consider the MCU to be back at the start again, back where it all started. And that's not where you want to be 5 phases in. So, yeah, Marvel's got to be looking at this stuff and saying, it's clear, we've lost the critics, that's crystal clear. But we're even losing the fans slowly. They haven't given up. 78% ain't bad, but it ain't good. So, okay, as we look at the state of the MCU, that's important to understand. Marvel's got its work cut out for it. Okay, but this is fascinating. It's not just Marvel. The movie industry as a whole has some real issues to overcome. According to IndieWire, only one 2023 movie with a budget over $200 million has made a profit so far this year. There's been 14 movies with a budget over $200 million and only one has made a profit so far. So think about in your head what you think that one is. And I will say up front, it is not Barbie or Oppenheimer, because both of those kept their budget under $200 million. Now, they performed like a blockbuster. Oh, my word. The amount of money those movies made combined. Barbenheimer, right? But their budget was under $200 million. So take those out of your mind. We're talking blockbuster films, which have cost a budget of over $200 million. So 7 are from Disney, 9 are sequels or remakes, 5 are MCU or DC, with Aquaman being number 6 when it comes out. And then they're saying basically the notion that a film has to be expensive to compete in the marketplace is hardly new, but 2023, aided by both inflation and COVID delays, both of which drove up costs, obviously, this has gone to new extremes. So here we go. Of this current listing, just one has turned a profit. What do you think that one is? It's Guardians Galaxy Volume 3. Way to go, Guardians. Way to go, Gunn. Thank you. That's why a lot of people said Gunn has kept the MCU afloat, and he did. That was a really good movie, and it absolutely made a profit. So let's look at this, though. This is fascinating. So there's Guardians. A domestic rank is number 4. You can see that it made a ton of money compared to its budget. But here's what's interesting, and I didn't really understand this until I started to look at these numbers more. The studios don't make, but I think it's around half the profits from things that are shown in the theaters, which makes sense. The theaters need to make money too, right? And then overseas, they make even less of a profit. So that's why with like Little Mermaid, you'd look at that and go, wait, budget $297, worldwide gross $570. How did that not make money? Well, it's because the theaters got their cut, the overseas got a larger cut, and there's a marketing budget on top. So, okay. But yeah, so we see Disney. Disney didn't do well with Little Mermaid, nor did they do well with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but still, Disney does have the top 3 slots there. Then we move to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Ouch, we're down to domestic rank number 11, and it did not do well. Look at that budget compared to worldwide gross. Ouch. Then Mission Impossible. So now we're not even talking about Disney anymore. Mission Impossible? And I've been told that's a really good movie, but you know what? I'm one of those people that didn't go see it in the theater. I'm waiting for it on digital, which we're going to talk about what a big problem that is in general. But supposedly it's a really good movie, and it got kind of crushed by Barbenheimer coming out around the same time. Then we have Transformers, didn't do well. That's another big series that normally does. Elemental, Fast X. Who would have thought Fast X wouldn't break even? Look at that worldwide gross, $714 million. Again, it just shows how much money ends up going to the theaters and to overseas markets. Then we have The Flash. We knew that didn't do well. Marvel's down there near the bottom. Ouch. Killers of the Flower Moon. Look at that budget, $200 million, and it only made $160? How did they spend $200 million on that movie? Clearly, they paid a lot of money to the actors. And then finally, these are all movies that are currently in the theaters or soon to be. Wish, Napoleon, and Aquaman, but they're projecting that all 3 of them will not break even. So, man, this is a problem. This is a real problem, not just for Marvel, not just for Disney, but for the movie industry. I mean, you can see Paramount, Universal's up here, Warner Brothers. Everybody is, Apple, everybody is hurting. So I think it's that a lot of people have been trained to wait for it to come out on digital or streaming, right? And like I said, I have not seen Mission Impossible in the theaters yet, even though it's fantastic. But here's the problem. If we keep doing that as a whole, and I'm saying we because I did it too. I didn't see Fast X in the theaters either, but I saw it on digital. If we keep doing this, then they're going to stop making these movies because they cannot afford to keep losing their lunch like this. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, they got to improve the quality, so we want to go see it in the theaters. But I think, too, it's bigger than just quality. It's people don't want to go to the theaters anymore. So this is a real issue and comes into the state of the MCU because the MCU's got to deal with this situation and figure out how to bring people back to the theaters again. Hopefully, they will do that with Deadpool 3. All right, another issue. The stories have seemed disconnected. So right here is basically phase 2 and phase 3, most of phase 2 and phase 3. And notice you had 3 Avengers-type movies, obviously Age of Ultron and then Infinity War and then Endgame ultimately. But then you also had Civil War. So within a 3-year span there, and at 4 if you throw in Endgame, we had these movies collecting the story together. Look at how simple this timeline looks. Then we move to phase 4. And it's all over the place. Now, I don't think that's bad, but these connections, there seems like a lot of connections, right? But sometimes it's Wong, who I love Wong, but showing up all over the place. Or Everett Ross even. He's one of these connections showing up all over the place. Or Nick Fury. we don't have the Avengers movies bringing everybody together. And even if we look at Phase 5, we don't see it in Phase 5 either. It's still pretty disconnected. So Marvel needs to give us some Avengers movies, or team-up movies at least, and really soon. And unfortunately, we're probably not going to see that until we get into 2025. Although I think Deadpool may be a form of a team-up movie, if you will, from a Fox standpoint. Obviously, we're going to get all the Fox characters, so that's good. But yeah, you can see why fans feel a little disconnected in the storyline. So, speaking of some of the slates, I think this is fascinating. This is the original Phase 5 slate, which for the most part, Marvel had announced everything, and these were all pretty solid dates. Ironically, I put Man-Thing, as you can see in the middle right, because I thought there was going to be a new Man-Thing special. We didn't technically get that, although we did get Werewolf by Night in color. But everything in here, the dates have shifted, other than Quantumania and Guardians of the Galaxy. Isn't it crazy? So this is what I thought at the end of 2022, the Phase 5 slate would look like. Oh my word, have things changed. In fact, speaking of changing, lower left-hand corner, Agatha has gone from House of Harkness to Coven of Chaos, to Darkhold Diaries, and now, finally, it is rumored, All Along. Agatha All Along. I love that. That's a really clever marketing strategy, if that's what they've been doing, is having Agatha change the title. In fact, notice the purple magic part, that's over that part of the title that keeps changing. So we'll see if they're done changing the title, but what a great way to market this. It's got everybody talking, that's for sure. But yeah, the original Phase 5 slate, insane to see how much has changed. So I also think this is interesting. When we look at the next 2 years, so I've broken this down to just 2024, and then we'll look at 2025, we're going to see a mixture of multiverse and grounded storylines. And I like that because that's the two different major pieces of the multiverse saga. Sure, multiverse, yes, but also these grounded storylines. So in 2024, we're getting Echo, the Wakanda series. I would argue probably X-Men 97 to some extent is grounded. Moon Girl. But then also we're getting the multiversal stories like Deadpool, Deadpool 3. And, I don't know how you want to call Agatha All Along and the Witch's Road potential story, but those are kind of multiversal. But so we're going to see a lot of different things going on in 2024. And notice I did blue for Sony because I wanted to kind of stand out that there's only one Marvel movie in the theaters. Pretty wild, pretty wild. But then 2025 really excites me because I think we're going to get the close down, if you will, of the grounded storylines, but they're going to go out with a bang. It's going to be amazing. So you got Daredevil, Captain America Brave New World. That should be awesome. I hope Spider-Man 4 is a grounded storyline. I'd really like that. Maybe it's Daredevil and Kingpin. Thunderbolts would be a grounded story. Ironheart would be a grounded story. Wonder Man, and then they may even move up Armor Wars. So that's great because there are a ton of open questions to be answered on all of these grounded plot lines. And then we have multiverse happening at the same time. Fantastic Four is rumored to be a multiverse type story. Obviously Beyond the Spider-Verse, very multiverse, etc. So very cool. I love that. And it excites me that we kind of got two different tracks, if you will, going on in the MCU. So very cool, very cool. There is still a lot of open questions, though. In my open question video, 74, I covered 74 open questions. That is a lot, with a ton coming in Phase 4 and Phase 5, obviously. So where are we going to get them? Well, this is kind of interesting to see. So if we look at the fact that all of these different titles are where I was guessing, at least, we're going to get these answers. In 2024, we're going to get Agatha All Along, Echo, and Deadpool 3, which will give us 7 of our answers. But then in 2025, that'll add in Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, Spider-Man 4, Fantastic Four, Wonder Man, and Daredevil Born Again, which will actually knock out 32, I'm projecting, of the open questions. That's a good sign because Marvel really needs to start closing down all these open plot lines. They're an issue only in the regard that people start to lose faith we'll ever get the answer. I think we will, and I actually think all 74 will be answered by the time the multiverse saga ends. So I'm fine if they add more open questions. They just need to close down the existing ones. So that's very cool. Then let's face it, there's a lot of heroes to juggle. I covered this in the State of Heroism, 80 plus heroes. That's crazy. Now, I understand a lot of people responded and said, yeah, but Guardians are kind of retired. We won't see them again. Who knows if the Eternals will ever show up again? You're putting Patriot in there, Isaiah Bradley's son, and he's not part of the Young Avengers yet. I totally get all that. That makes sense. Still, though, you've got 80 plus heroes that are active, that are on the board, and whose stories could continue. That's really the issue Marvel's got to figure out. So that's why we need those team-up movies. That's why we need Captain America 4, Thunderbolts, Young Avengers coming in 2026, most likely. We need to see these characters coming back, or it feels like we don't care anymore, right? And I do think by Secret Wars, it's going to be a bloodbath. They're going to kill off a lot of heroes, or some may just retire and we never see them again. But this number is going to drop because we're going to be adding in the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. I mean, that's 20-some heroes between those two teams, probably. So, yeah, we got to do something with this hero count. It's great to have so many, but it's also a problem. Then I would argue in the multiverse saga, the multiverse itself hasn't been very clearly explained. I've done some videos, and I think I understand it, and I get a lot of positive feedback from people that say, yeah, that sounds good. But then I also get other people debating it, which, by the way, is totally fine, but it shows the issue. The basic premise of the multiverse saga hasn't been sufficiently explained. So, Marvel, I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to bet you that in under 4 minutes, I can do what you need to do in a movie at some point. You need to have Dr. Selvig or Reed Richards get on a chalkboard and do the following. Here we go. Timer starts. Okay, so the multiverse starts with the fact that we have multiple Big Bangs, and those multiple Big Bangs are important because they each produce different sets of Infinity Stones. That's important because those Infinity Stones can give us different sets of reality. That's how we get a paint universe. That's how we get an animated universe or the cube universe, etc. Also, those stones can be different even across different live-action universes, which we'll cover the importance behind that as we go through this. But that's the key. Multiple Big Bangs, different types of stones. These are each alternate universes. Then, if we look at 616 in particular, it then has universes / timelines. You can refer to it as either, but they're effectively universes branching off of it. This is a multiverse. Believe it or not, there is a 616 multiverse because 616 Sacred Timeline has multiple branching universes. And I think that's what the Loki tree represents. I don't think Loki pulled in the paint universe and the cartoon universe. I don't think he pulled in 838, and I'll discuss why in detail. But one interesting thing, if you've seen the What If latest trailer video, they decorate the tree. That's a meta reference. It ain't going to happen in the actual series. But I think it's just one more example of the Watcher showing that he watches 616 and its branches, and that's why he decorated that tree. So that's just kind of cute. But why do I think this is just, the Loki's tree is just 616 and its branches? Well, because we've seen in things like the Time Heist and in Loki that you can jump between these universes, these branches, and there's no problem. There was no chance for incursion. I mean, in Loki, Sylvie lived in that McDonald's branch for who knows how long, and there was no incursions. So you can jump between these universes with no issue. We saw it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they jumped between the timelines in Season 7, and bringing up the Watcher again, he jumped between these universes in the What If episodes with no issues whatsoever. Ultron did it as well. It's also important to note that people stayed in alternate universes, in the branched universes with no issue. Gamora came from the 2014 branch, and she's been in the MCU for 3 years now. Hasn't created an incursion. Black Widow in What If was taken from one branched universe and placed in another. No issue of incursion. It's also important to note that that all the stones, including the Time Stone, the Infinity Stones, are branched and are basically the same. There may be minor differences, but they are basically the same, and that's why they pulled them from one universe in the Time Heist and used them in the main timeline. And that's why Ultron was able to use those same stones across the different branches, because they're all based on the same original stones. Now, the Infinity Stone Crusher is a whole different issue. I cover that in my What If video. Watch that if you want more details on why that didn't work. All right. Then we have alternate universes. These are important because the only way to jump between an alternate universe is if, well, you're America Chavez, first of all, because she can do it effortlessly. I mean, she doesn't know how she's doing it, but she can do it. And she does not cause incursions because she seems to be the only one across the entire multiverse. However, we know that you do create incursions if you jump to 838, if you're Doctor Strange, because Mordo and Reed told him, you got to get out of here. You're going to cause an incursion in our universe. We also saw that when Andrew and Toby's Spider-Man came to 616. They nearly created an incursion. And I'm going to throw out that because the time stones are different in the X-Men universe, because that's an alternate universe, that might be why Deadpool's time travel machine works differently. why they were able to do Back to the Future logic. Isn't that interesting? It's another reason why having an alternate universe that has a different set of Infinity Stones can allow all these things to be, well, different. Then finally, you have the megaverse. That is all the multiverse combined, all the multiple multiverses. And you can either call it megaverse or omniverse. Either works, but that describes the whole thing. Okay, I don't know if you timed me, but that was 4 minutes. That's it. 4 minutes, and I explained the entire multiverse structure. Marvel, please do that. Now, for the record, if this isn't right, I don't care. I have nothing invested in this other than I personally think it's right and I've tried my best. Hey, if they tell me it's wrong, I don't care. So I want to stress, I'm not saying Marvel has to explain this, because if this ain't right, tell me what is right. But my point was, I just covered multiple movies, multiple concepts, effortlessly in 4 minutes. Please, Marvel, you got to do this to make the multiverse saga make sense to everyone going forward, and to make us all invested in it so we understand the importance of jumping between different alternate universes versus jumping between branches and the difference in the stones, etc. This is all so important. All right, final thing. As we wrap up, I thought this was interesting. When I went back to look at the year in review for 2022, I found this article. So this is from, you can see the date, December 2nd of 2022. It is fascinating how this article, written a year ago, still applies 100% to what Marvel needs to do to fix any of the issues they're going through right now. So I want to look at these key points from a year ago and see, well, it kind of shows how hard it is to turn the bus around when the bus is going 90 miles an hour, right? It takes time for Marvel to redirect and fix. So they know and knew a year ago about the following issues. So first of all, Disney will face organizational and operating changes within the company to address the board's goals. Obvious, the board is very interested in the company making money. Marvel Studios is reevaluating its lineup for phases 5 and 6. That we did see, right? Remember I showed you what phase 5 was going to look like at the end of 2022 and how different it is now. So they're doing that, right? They're going to continue to do it, but I kind of bet the shovels are mostly done. We'll see. I do think that Secret Wars is going to move to 2028, but otherwise we might not see a lot more shuffling. Then there has been an internal negative feedback regarding the product distribution and quality. You think? I mean, we've been hearing more and more issues internally within Disney, and we heard it from Iger. They understand and realize that they have lost the critics. You know, critics are getting kind of frustrated at Marvel, and they've lost the general fan base. I mean, the hardcore fans like me, probably anybody watching this video, you're still with Marvel. But if you lose the general fan base, then you're not getting enough butts and seats for the movies. So one possible move is developing creative oversight on Marvel Studio future releases. Isn't that interesting? Because what did Iger just recently say? One of the biggest issues was we did not have enough executive oversight. And that doesn't fix everything, but there's no doubt Feige has been so busy that he hasn't been able to make sure all these stories tie together, to make sure that everything is perfect, and as he did with phases 1 through 4. I mean, sure, there were a few misfires by the time we got to 4, but for the most part, the MCU has been fantastic. And it's only as we've been getting into the later parts of phase 4 and phase 5 now that his oversight is clearly lacking. He's been too busy. He's been too busy. Then this is kind of funny. Special presentations have gained more traction for potential projects moving forward. This is the only thing that seems to kind of have changed. I mean, they were really in vogue at the end of 2022. We had Werewolf by Night and Guardians Holiday Special, both of which were awesome. I think Marvel's realizing, though, that they cost a lot to make. So we may see less special presentations, but more of the Marvel Spotlight series, as we've been hearing with Echo, kind of the darker, grittier, maybe more mature content. So we'll see how that ends up going. I like special presentations, though I hope they still do some at least. Projects already in post-production are still set for release. We're seeing that, right? We saw that some of the stuff in 2023 that we watched this year, it wasn't as great as it could have been. You know, it still needed work, but hey, it was already done. It was in post-production. But we are seeing that even things like Captain America 4, they're going back to fix that. They're realizing, oh my gosh, we can't have another situation like the Marvels where people don't come see this in the theater. So then the main focus of reevaluation will be projects still in the pre-production phase. Well, that's true, and that's why we've seen the big push to move things out of 2024 and into 2025. But honestly, they're being willing to redo stuff that was even set in post-production. So pretty wild. Good for Marvel to realize this problem. So finally, expect shifts in release schedules for some projects, changes in media format for others, and a postponement or outright cancellation of some projects. Isn't this list fascinating? I mean, this is what Marvel needs to do to move forward. Nothing has changed here. And we've seen that while they tried to do this stuff at the end of 2022 and into 2023, it's just hard to do this when so much is already going, when the wheels on the van are moving so fast. So I have a lot of hope for Marvel. What do I think the state of the MCU is? I'm going to call it cautiously optimistic, right? I mean, you know me, I'm eternally optimistic. So I would probably call it eternally optimistic. But we'll go with cautiously optimistic because I think they have realized their issues. They realized them even a year ago. They're making the things they need to do, the changes they need to do to right the ship. And I think we're going to have a fantastic time in the future. Maybe we won't see it fully in 2024. We'll see it partially. I mean, Deadpool is going to be fantastic. And Echo actually looks really good. So does What If to end the year. But I think by 2025 in particular, we're going to be up to the Marvel we've expected up to this point. So I am cautiously optimistic for the state of the MCU, and I'm very excited to see what they have in store for us going forward. So, in fact, there you go, right? Now we await the next exciting entries in Phase 5. I really, really think Marvel knows what they got to do, and they're going to do it. So don't forget, we do have the December contest. Just be a subscriber and leave a comment. You might win a book or a steelbook. And we do have the membership option if you're interested. And then I always close by talking about the upcoming events on Discord. You can see we have the live watch for What If coming up. Once Upon a Deadpool, that's coming up. We have the Comic Club, so it's not just movies and shows, it's also comics and MMORPG. I keep forgetting to mention that, but there's a lot of role-playing going on if you enjoy that type of thing. A lot on the server, really, really enjoy it. And then finally, we have a few more rewatches coming, and including the Aquaman movie, Aquaman 1, because, of course, Aquaman 2 is coming out right before Christmas. So I will leave a pinned comment so that you can join the Discord server if you're interested. We'd love to have you. Over 1,000 members so far. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we'll all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.